Hello, my friends, and welcome to another episode of the Stubble Talk podcast. My name is Ben, and today I am joined by the wonderful Charlie. Charlie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
Would you mind just introducing yourself and telling the audience who you are, where you live, and what do you do?
Yeah, my name is Charlie McKie. I am 26 years old. I work in recruitment, specialising in social housing sector. I live just outside of South London, within Kent at the moment. And yeah, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I realised initially it sounded a little bit like a dating profile.
It does a little bit. Hopefully my partner doesn't see this.
Hey, I'm sure she'll love what comes from it, so it's all good.
Yeah, of course.
Charlie, you reached out to me through LinkedIn, which was a new one for me. I haven't had anyone reach out yet, so it was super exciting, and thank you so much for reaching out.
No worries.
And we had a kind of brief call and chatted a bit about your story.
Yeah.
And I was just wondering if you could just start off by talking about before what happened. We'll get to that in a second. But how was your mental health before we get to the big event, I suppose?
My mental health was, I'd say, in my opinion, excellent. I had a really, well, in my opinion, excellent. If I was probably to talk to anyone else, they might have said, Jesus, that kid's got some issues and, stuff that he doesn't address at all. It's not really something that I placed a huge deal of value on. Originally I grew up in a very small town where men are men. Amazing place though, don't get me wrong, absolutely loved it there. Very much of the mentality where, it's better just to get on with it. I think within our friendship groups, we had, a significant amount of stuff that we probably deal with at quite a young age internally in terms of, some friends sadly passing away when we were quite young and dealing with that. But, it's never something that we properly addressed. I think we always did maybe start to talk about it, but only when we were very, very drunk. The next day, it's like, nothing had happened. For me, I always kind of viewed myself as someone who was, didn't need to address those sorts of issues. I was just going to get on with it, achieve things, very, very solutions focused. And I think that probably is part of the problem, being too solutions focused, which is why, fortunately, so many men are killing themselves.
Yeah, it's, we're living in an epidemic at the moment, aren't we? Where 75% of suicides are male, and hopefully through talking about it, that's how we kind of change that stigma. So obviously we've kind of alluded to it, but sorry, can you take me back to January of this year?
Yes, I can. I'll try my best. So I was playing rugby for my local rugby team, was travelling back, played for them for about 10 years in total with a few different stints. And I think 26th of January, I suffered a significant head injury during playing, which caused severe retrograde amnesia. So everything about my life from that point, I'd forgot about. So didn't know who my mum and dad were, didn't know who my family were, didn't know the difference between hot and cold. Essentially had to relearn how to walk and talk, writing. There's some funny first attempts from me when I was trying to write. And part of the brain injury caused me, I didn't sleep for 8 days. I had some cellular damage, and I was in constant pain. And due to waiting for some MRI results, I developed psychosis. So I was sectioned under the Mental Health Act for my own good, went to Bradgate facility, and I had schizophrenic tendencies. So, to put it bluntly, I had voices in my head telling me to hurt myself and other people. And yeah, it's as bad as it gets, And from a mental health standpoint, I was heavily sedated on about 8 different types of medication to, steady the ship, as it were. And over a period of about 6 months, I regained my memory. This didn't happen all at once. It was kind of gradual. I'd remember islands of information, as it were like. So the first thing I remembered was about work. I remembered a contractor that was working for me. The next week it was family, and then friends, and so on over a 4-week period. I was incredibly lucky to say that everything came back. There were elements like walking and talking, which came back very, very quickly. They were nipped in the bud, and the brain's a funny old thing. It works at its own pace. It's so complex. But I essentially had no real identity or idea who I was or anything about my life in the purest way.
Man, that, I think when you kind of hear it, like, it's so difficult because you can't even relate, I suppose, or be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes to imagine what that can even possibly feel like. Can you, obviously, you said that after the accident, I suppose is probably the best way to call it, that you just had no memory at all. Like, what was, like, do you remember that experience, or is this something which has kind of been blocked out now and you don't have much memory of?
Yes. So the doctors told me that, or told my family that were looking after me, bless them, that once I regained all my memories, most, or if not all, my memories would be completely blocked out, which has been the case. There's certain things that I remember really vaguely, mainly feelings. I remember one time when I was deep into my medication where I literally could not walk 30 seconds without feeling like I'd run a marathon. I was fairly fit and active. I was playing rugby, training at least 3 or 4 times a week in the gym, playing rugby every weekend. I could not walk more than 50 yards without passing out. I used to just go sit in the rain because I knew it was real. It was a thing. It's something that I learned. So, and just that would be my connection to reality, I suppose. I think, at the time, it's basically like living in a computer game almost. Everybody's telling you the rules around you. It's all a bit new. But, it's an experience that not many people will ever have to tell. I think, going through the experience, people reached out directly to my family, similar experiences where it would last a couple of days maybe, and then it would all be fine. The reality with brain injuries, right, is that, in my experience, there's only so much we know about the brain from a medical standpoint. In reality, I think we know very little about the brain's ability to heal, why it acts in certain ways, why it will choose to go into a self-destruct mode due to certain injuries. And there's no time frame. They kind of just said 2 weeks, 6 months, could be 12 months, but there's no guarantee. We hope it comes back, but there's no guarantee. In most cases it will, but there's never a guarantee, and I think that's the hardest thing for sort of family members or other people who have gone through it. I'm sure there will be that are listening. In some sense, there's no guarantees over anything. And the craziest thing about it is a really innocuous injury. It did not look massively out of place. And really sadly, just over the weekend, there's a chap who's 20 years old playing American football, on a scholarship. I think it was Alabama A&M, who's similar sort of, the videos of his injury and my collision, identical, look like innocuous, and he sadly passed away. Yeah, so, that's reality of contact sport and repetitive head injuries, I guess.
Yeah. I don't play any contact sports. Probably for the reason of I've always been a bit scared of injuries in probably the smaller sense of just being tackled, let alone what it is that
Mate,
you've gone through and other people.
yeah, mate, the thing is, for me, rugby has given me so much more than what it's taken from me. You know, the people that I've played with, met, relationships, the memories that I'm now fortunate enough to have back. I think it came at a point in my life when I was about 15 playing football. I was probably not as focused in school as I should have been, or as focused and have that drive in life. And it gave me so much. You know, I absolutely loved it, mate. And there's so many amazing memories that I have of playing the game, and people I've met, places I've travelled. You know, one of the best things I ever could have done. And I know there's a lot of chat about, you know, how do we make it safer? How do we change the game? You've got to see it for what it is, mate. It's a violent game, and that's what drew me to it. If I'm being completely honest, it's camaraderie. It's the violent aspect of it that drew myself to it, and it gave me so many good grounding lessons. It's similar to boxing, right? You know, it gives you such good discipline, focus, motivation, ability to be part of a team, sacrificing yourself for something greater. Yeah. All really core skills, which I think everyone should have. But yeah, it's dangerous. It's dangerous. Yeah. There's no way around it. But there's some other work that I'm doing on that in terms of insurance and stuff, which I'm sure we'll get onto in terms of preventative measures.
And you can't play rugby now, I guess?
Not if I want to keep my family or girlfriend, but yeah, no, that's out. So
how's that been? Sorry. Obviously, you said you really enjoyed it. It was something which gave you so much life, and now that's kind of been taken away from you.
Yeah, that's been the toughest bit for me at the moment. I think I was relatively okay with it. You know, like, fair enough. You've had a good escape here. You've got everything back. You're back at work. Found it really, really tough to watch team sheets go up. All my mates are still playing. But, you know, that's just part of the perspective bit, right? That you've just got to look at it. And so have to shout out Matt Hampson Foundation during this. So the charity that looked after me and nursed me back to care, to nurse me back to full health. Currently working with Jill there, who is one of the therapists. Just absolutely amazing, that perspective in terms of realising, coming to terms with the fact that I am not the same Charlie as I was before that accident, but that doesn't have to be a bad thing. There's a new Charlie here and you just have to take the positives out of it. And now I can safely say that injury is the best thing that ever happens to me in terms of long-term outcome, in my opinion, based on, you know, my appreciation for life, appreciation for, you know, my family, friends, people who are there for me, my work, my job were absolutely amazing here. They really, really looked after me, and supporting me in getting back into the sort of work that I do now. It's, you know, it's high intensity, high frequency. You have to be very accurate all the time. And, you know, as someone who's just had a major brain injury, accuracy and staying alert can be an issue. But coming back into that just made everything so welcoming, easy and transitioning. And that was definitely something that I was worried about.
Well, who do you work for, Charlie? So, because I think it's really important to shout out companies who really look after employees.
Yeah, Goodman Masson. So, based here in London. Yeah, typically started as a financial services recruiter, set up a housing practice about 10 years ago, joined myself, got nearly 2 years ago now. And I was fairly new when this happened as well. So I'd only been here for 6 months. Recruitment agencies, I don't know if you know much about how they work, typically very, very ruthless. If you are not, you know, at the end of the day, it's a sales game, right? It's a sales role. If you're not bringing in revenue, you're a cost. I'd only been there for 6 months. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a really good start. But they couldn't have been better to me, in terms of, you know, my direct manager, Jack, checking in with my family, you know, going out of his way to make me feel included. They offered to come up to my hospital to do team meetings. Catherine, absolutely amazing. The exec director, like just keeping in constant contact, helping with anything. Nothing was too much trouble. Gave me all the time in the world I needed to come back. Just said, listen, don't worry. We love you. We really want you to come back whenever you're ready. You know, you can be off for a year. It doesn't matter. We're going to be here for you when you're back. And I can't tell you how much of a relief that was for me. And my wider family, right? Because I was 25. I just recently started a role in London, was just about to get my first house. You know, I wasn't far away from my first promotion, and then it's like, bang. And to have that, saying that I've got this to go back to. And that really helped me in terms of my recovery. You know, I've got something to work for, I've got something to go back for. And I will forever be in a debt to those people that helped me out, you know, Matt Ampson, work, friends, family. This is it now, right? This is why we do it. This is my energy for every day. And also for myself, I've got responsibility for myself to get back to where I was going. You know, I can't have an excuse. I think, you know, I've mentioned this to you a couple of times, you know. It can be your excuse in the pub in 40 years about how you were going to become someone really successful, high flyer, have everything you wanted, but this brain injury stopped everything. Or it can be your superpower now as your chance to look back at everything you were doing wrong, self-review. I journal every single day. I have self-review every single week. I know exactly where I want to be in 2, 3, 5, 10 years time. I know exactly the sort of things that I want. Family, if I'm lucky. And mate, so lucky to be in this position now where there's a version of me in that hospital bed that would have killed to be where I am now. And, you know, brilliant. It's been brilliant. Come back, build out a new market for us. It's going well. Things are turning, you know, and I'm getting back into the swing of it now, mate. And I feel brilliant.
Charlie, like one of the most incredible things that we had a phone call before we obviously started recording this. The thing that instantly just captivated me so instantly is just straight out of my life now. And like, I think it's just, you've expressed it so clearly then, like that choice of, you know, being able to use this as an excuse or use this as your superpower. I think that so much is so transferable to, like, we all have bad things that happen in our lives, right? And we can either let that define we can either completely define our lives as the reason why we didn't do it, or it could be the reason why we did. And it's honestly just so incredible to see, you know, have something so horrific happen to you. And then you've bounced back. Like what kind of influence that choice? Because like, that's not an easy thing to accept and to just get on with. Like, what was that push, I suppose? Where did that come from?
I didn't have a choice, mate. I didn't have a choice. For me, I'm, you know, very open with it. I'm powered by fear of failure. I'm very, very hard on myself. And I think this constant feedback that I get is I'm probably my therapist, she goes nuts at me. She says, you need to just get over it, realize what you've been through, and understand it's normal to be like this and not to be perfect. I strive for that every single day because for me, I think replacing a bit of what I lost in sport and that competitive edge, sales role somewhere I can be really competitive, not even within my agency, but, you know, and with the chaps that I work with, you know, and we're all amazing, by the way. It's not that horrible competitiveness, but as well, you know, we're competing against so many different other agencies in our space, right? You know, and that I'm so set on getting to the top of whatever I do, and I feel like going through an experience like that. Do you mean like I can do anything you want, anything I set my eyes on now? I feel like I will genuinely achieve because I'm able to look at things in a way that just allows me to can break down any problem now and just find short-term fixes that help me get there. The reviewing and the journaling, I never would have started on my own. Having done that now, I can really make little improvements in my life. So cutting out drinking excessively. Obviously, drinking is like a big not a no-go, but, you know, that party lifestyle. Not party lifestyle, I think it's the wrong word, but I think, look, it's, you know, we're young men,
social
right?
drinking?
Social drinking, midweek drinking absolutely killed me before. Don't touch it now. And it's that ability now, which has a massive knock-on effect on your mental health. Those little pints here and there that lead into maybe 4 or 5 pints on a Wednesday, you come in Thursday, you're not yourself, you lag it. That's just not me anymore. And I seriously think that this whole process and the therapy and understanding about myself and just being authentic with myself, knowing what I want, has been, the whole process is why I say it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, right? Because it's getting to that place now where I feel super focused. I've got huge energy for every single day. I'm just so thankful to be here. I'm so thankful just to have an opportunity to get off the train at London Bridge, walk through the city, come back to my office. I go down to see Franco every morning at Barbican Station for a panini, and he smiles, sees a cut to my hair, who's next door to the office. And mate, like, I'm just attracted to people now with great energy who's smiling because I'm lucky. I'm really, really, really lucky. And that's it. And that's it in terms of my outlook. That's why.
Well, that's like the energy which you give off is instantly so infectious. Like, I'm sat here, I'm like, there's nothing that I can't do now. Like, and it's
There isn't, mate. There isn't.
Like, it's so encouraging to see this out of something which is so negative and could have been so catastrophic. Like, you learn to read, to walk, to write. You relearn everything about yourself, and you've turned yourself into like what feels like Charlie 2.0, as opposed to like Charlie -1.
This is my second chance. This is the opportunity for a rebirth, right? Nothing like a factory reset to get things going and put things in perspective. And I look, going through something like this, there was days where my memory started to come back, but you have to stay on this medication for a long time to when you can't come straight back off it. Even though the psychosis was definitely caused by, you know, not sleeping or whatever, or not knowing who you are and no real sense of what reality is. You know, there's times there where I was remembering, but I thought, how the hell am I able? I can't even walk to the end of my road. I can't walk to the front door from this living room. How the hell am I going to be able to do a full day in London? And guess what? I'm here. I'm walking between 5 and 10 miles every single day just to kind of keep the hips away and and keep a little bit fitter. But the only limitations we have, I truly believe, are in our own heads. And I really, really believe that the limitations that we come across every day, it's only our own perception of the world as we see it that makes things seem impossible. People do absolutely amazing things every single day. There was that fellow who ran across Africa. Do you know how nuts that is? Did you see him?
Yeah. He's English guy, the big ginger bit, right?
Yeah, Russ, hardest geezer, they call him. And I just think a mindset has taken him to do that. Nothing else. The human body, we as humans are capable of absolutely amazing things. And it just takes pushing yourself and getting into that mindset of doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And, you know, consistency is the key, right? Consistency, waking up every day with the same energy and being focused on a goal. And you'll be surprised at what you can achieve massively.
Yeah, massively. I wanted to probably go back a little bit because I feel like we've covered so much already. But I wanted to, something you were saying earlier about how you saw your friends still on the rugby team sheets every single week. How did that affect like your teammates and everything else? Because surely, seeing one of your mates go through something so horrific and choosing to carry on, like, what was the effect on like those around you, I suppose?
my friends were brilliant. You know, they just accepted me for what it was. He's had a really bad knock on the head. Doesn't know who you are. He's gone to Bradgate. But, you know, one of my closest friends I used to work with, we used to build glamping pods. When I was starting to get back into work and build my fitness up, when I was still a bit forgetful, shall we say, let me go work with him up his yard. You know, and for them, they were just solid as a rock. You know, my friendship group is so tight. And they're all people that I grew up with, played rugby with. You know, you know, you've got your people will always be there for you. For my family, I'd say it was probably one of the hardest things they could have dealt with. You know, your 25-year-old son is back home and don't know who you are. Like, where the fuck do you start with that? Because so quickly in your life, you think, oh, Charlie's fine. We don't have to worry about Charlie anymore. Suddenly, Charlie takes up all your time because, you know, again, like, so amazing. And then my girlfriend as well. I don't know why she stuck around, mate. Fair play to her.
Because she quite likes you, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I know. Maybe she should get a test for that, mate, because that is a serious. I had this conversation like when I first came round. She wasn't there, but I said, "Oh, obviously Alice has done me then, hasn't she?" She's like, "No, she's been there every day. She went down to part-time at her job to come see me, to keep, like, every day she's with me, every hospital appointment."
Wow.
You know, yeah, no, that girl's special. Really, really good girl. I'm very, like, that's what I say, go back. I'm so lucky to have all these people in my life. You know, I'm sure it did affect them, but never once did they let me see it.
Wow.
And I think because, you know, where I'm from, Rutland, it's a tight community. We look after each other really well. We've all been through a lot of different stuff. We may not talk about it publicly, but, you know, when you need people, people are always there for you. Yeah.
Wow. It sounds like you've got some really incredible people around you. And
Yeah, that's luck.
like something that, as I chat to people, something which always stands out is, like, when times are really hard, it's the people that really get people through the hard times, right? And it's just, it's something which I've just started to notice is so important. Like, having either community or friends or family, having those people around you so that you've got someone just to, you know, I think humans are pretty good at picking themselves back up, but there will always be times when getting up is just that little bit harder. And you've obviously gone through something where
I didn't know how to get up.
you didn't know how to get up, right? Yeah, and I was trying to put a like phrase together, like, yeah, it was really hard for you to get up. And it sounds like those people have just so carried you through it. Like, how important do you think having a support system in kind of any situation, obviously outside of just this situation, is, and what's your kind of value on that now?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good question. I dread to think where I'd be without my family, my support system, right? I think, you know, outcomes are defined by situations. My situation in terms of family, friends, support was as good as it can get. You know, if I was to look at me, if I was in that situation, didn't have my family, was on my own in London, be homeless. Wouldn't have a fixed address anymore, wouldn't have a job to go back to. The only difference between me and someone else is my support system, you know, and I think the value of a strong family unit, and a support system, whether that's close friends, do as much as you can to nurture that. You know, my advice to anyone who's having serious arguments with family members or whatever is just, it's not worth it. Put it to bed, reach out, because you never know when you or someone else might need, or them might need that support system one day. You know, we can't predict life. It's unpredictable. You know, supports the only reason I've been able to make this recovery is the people who are around me, right? This isn't just me. This is people who, you know, stopped their whole lives to look after me when I was at my lowest. And I think that's the important thing to remember as well, that this isn't just all me, all mine. This is a host of different people from NHS, Matt Hampson Foundation, my friends, you know, my girlfriend, my family.
Yeah.
This is a combination of everyone's effort. And, you know, I think that's partly why I've got the energy I do now, because I want to, live my life, not for them. I've got to live it for me, obviously. But don't waste it. Like, I'm not going to waste it now. No way.
I get that. Obviously you spoke about after, the accident. Is that what you call it, the accident, or like how do you describe that when you tell people?
Question. Like, it's a very good question, mate.
Because now I'm trying to say it, and I'm like, how do you?
Yeah, I think we call it the accident. Accidents happen, don't they?
Yeah.
There's no. I was playing rugby, it happened. Accident's a good word.
Yeah. But obviously after the accident, you then said 7-8 days you didn't sleep for, and then
yes, it was 7 days back to back. 7
so
months.
then you then experienced psychosis.
Yeah.
What is psychosis for people that don't know?
Psychosis is one of the most serious mental health complications that you can get. It's an illness, right? It manifests itself in visual hallucinations, hearing voices, and it convinced me that there was someone trying to shoot me outside my window. I smashed through my bedroom door, went to grab a knife, and went outside chasing it, which is probably the hardest thing to talk about now as well. It also, I had voices telling me that I needed to cut off my own feet in order for the voices to stop. And so psychosis alters your perception of reality. So for me, I would assume you right here have voices in your head telling you to cut off your feet. And that was normal. That was as, you know, as normal as picking up this phone is. You know, that's just what happens in real world. So my mum and dad kind of knew that these symptoms were developing. We tried to get appointments or to get in to see a doctor. But it all culminated in this one night where my mum and dad hid all the knives in the house because we couldn't get through to anyone, right? There was just no support. They didn't want to call the police on me because there's a story will come to later. You know, they've never dealt with this before. How do you know what the right thing to do is? They're worried about me sort of attacking police officers or whatever. You know, you're still a 25-year-old man. Like, what do you do? I tried to cut off my legs with a spoon. I've got 2 scars to show for it on the back of my legs. Yeah, and that's psychosis in its purest form. So it's essentially schizophrenic tendencies that can cause significant harm to yourself or others.
Yeah. Do you remember that? Like, is that
to a certain extent? Yeah. I remember part of it. I remember being in Bradgate in the facility, and I was with, you have a guard that's with you the whole time, and they were dropping off another mental health patient, and armed police were dropping this patient off. So when I said to him, have they got guns? He went, yeah. So now what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing is true. People are coming to shoot you. I absolutely lit it out. It was in my first hour in there. I became a very unsafe person I was put on a range of medication, antipsychotics, sleeping tablets, really high doses. I had a pill box similar to what, your granddad might have every single day, 4 or 5 times a day. Essentially became docile. There was nothing behind my eyes. But it was necessary. There's always the big worry was at the time that I developed a really significant brain bleed, because that can cause psychosis. And yeah, that this bit has been the hardest part of my journey in terms of coming to terms with, and people found out about it, and how the hell do you assimilate back into normal life after going through something like that? Psychosis is a really dirty word, right? You associate that with proper nutters. And, I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but you assume that with, serial killers that are probably in Broadmoor at the moment, proper cases. And it was just, accepting the fact that it was caused by a rugby injury. I was playing rugby, had an injury.
Yeah.
And it's caused that. Usually it's very common in people that have been smoking weed, marijuana for a long time. Very, very common with individuals who are addicted to substances, alcohol. So they did a certain like medical checks, tests, obviously, because there's certain medication which is different that you have to take for those. And also, so when I went to Bradgate, they had to rule out a brain bleed. So bearing in mind this had all happened, I was sent to Leicester Royal Infirmary A&E department. They said, you've got to go there and have a scan. And my mum was like, you are insane. There's no way you can send someone in this state who thinks they're trying to kill him into a busy A&E.
And this is just after the spin incident.
And I'd already had an MRI and CT which ruled out a significant brain bleed. And I don't know how I did it. My mum, she's an absolute saint. She spent 3 hours on the phone getting through to someone, and finally got hold of an A&E doctor who just said he's not going to have developed a brain bleed within 3 days of this scan. Please give him some medication. And I think that's part of my mum battled through everything within the NHS and the system, because the NHS, when you go to a particular hospital, they can't share your records with any other hospitals. So if I was to go to Leicester Royal Infirmary, the mental health unit at Bradgate is at Glenfield Hospital. You're 3 miles apart. They can't share any information between those two hospitals freely. So you need a middleman in the middle. So you need Leicester Royal Infirmary to give you all these notes and really certain bits of information, which takes days. And it really slowed down all my recovery, ability to be seen by certain doctors. It was eventually decided that I would be given very high sedated drugs, and it wouldn't be a safe place for me to stay. So I had daily home visits from NHS support team who would come out, measure my drugs, ask me some questions. I still get follow-ups today. And I think that's kind of the sobering reality of what I went through is, I'm back at work, everything's great and I'm getting on, but, I've still got to take that call. Are you thinking of killing yourself? Are you thinking of killing other people? I suppose it's a good thing they're still checking, right? And I still have to have these tests because ultimately you can't predict what the brain might do. But, putting yourself out there on this stage is, I hope it helps someone in the sense that I've recovered. From a mental health point of view, there's not going to be many people who have gone through worse. I'm sure there is, but that have come through it to be able to tell the tale and get back there from a perspective point of view of, you hear about someone having psychosis and coming back and being able to work in a high, fast-paced sales role within London and in the city. You can do it. You can do anything.
Yeah.
And my message is, you can recover from anything, absolutely anything, and you're not defined by anything that happens to you in your life. Absolutely not defined.
Yeah.
And look, mate, I'm not the finished article by absolutely any means. My personal development, I'm still relatively at the bottom of the ladder. I'm just chasing down, my end goal. And I've had a few setbacks, but that's fine. Setbacks are going to make the rest of the journey so much wiser, and make me so much wiser for the rest of the journey. And, doesn't matter what you've been through. Any mental health issues you've had, you can put them to bed. It doesn't have to stay part of you forever. You've got a choice every single day of how you view yourself, how you view the wider world. And you have to be really, really consistent in the fact of knowing you are good enough. You're not defined by your past. Your current actions every single day will make you the person that you want to be. And that's all I have to say on psychosis.
Yeah. Dude, thank you so much for sharing. Like that, you shared it so beautifully. And
Thank you.
Yeah, such a traumatic experience. Like the way you talk about it, you share it with such grace and elegance that hopefully, if there's anyone else that maybe doesn't have a very good understanding of what this is, like has just a better understanding. You did kind of mention that you feel like psychosis is kind of a bit of a dirty word, and probably due to a lack of understanding.
How scares people, right?
Yeah, like and that's kind of what I wanted to probably kind of have a bit of a further on with, is with sharing your story and kind of talking about your experiences, what's happened. Like, is there any kind of, I don't know if fear is the right word, but maybe fear of judgment of like what people think, and when you hear, when you say you've been sectioned and you've experienced psychosis and kind of everything else, like what goes on in your brain, like when you just kind of think about that, I suppose.
It's fucking scary, mate. Really scary. There's going to be people who may listen to this who probably think they know me quite well, who won't know this. This is me being as open as I can about it, because I think it's important that, you have to be as open as you. That the only way you ever move forward in life is being open and authentic and being your true self, right? There will be people, I know for a fact, whether we like to admit it or not, that think never speaking to him, that is just like, don't want to be associated, scared. What if he does that? Fine, I can live with that. I really don't care. I know good people. In order to get on in life, you need to be attracted to good people. Good people have a good energy about them, good understanding of things. It's been the biggest journey in terms of a therapy point of view. I massively care what other people think of me. Massively. I always have. And it's getting to that understanding of where good people in your life that have always been there for you and always will be there for you won't care. They'll just appreciate you for the person you are, for the actions that you do for people. And look, my therapist put it the best way ever, Jill. She said, if this had been someone that you work with and that had gone through this experience and come back, kept fighting and tried to make something really positive of himself despite a horrible situation, you probably think, fair play. Fair play. Like he's sounding. But when you think about yourself, you think, I think especially when, a big part of my job is winning new business, convincing someone else that I'm the person to be trusted with their hiring process. My first thought was, well, what the fuck? They're not going to want a nusser, are they? But turns out I'm not bad. Yeah.
Can
And
I just say, like, it, if I was someone that you were working with, like, I would want to work with you straight away, because I think what there's
very
such
kind.
power in how we react to our setbacks, right? And the fact that you've come back fighting, you've, you say you evolved into, Charlie 2.0 with this
Yeah.
attitude and this mindset. And I think that it shows that actually you are someone who people should be like fighting to work with, as opposed, I think anyone that listens to this and goes, or maybe not, I think they're the people who need to look at themselves, because, bro, you are so courageous, and like coming on here and sharing what you've shared, which is, I think it's a hard thing to share. I think it's very
It has been
courageous,
for
man.
me, mate. Yeah. Thank you. I think the biggest worry for me is external opinions. How are people going to view you from a professional point of view? And I think not even 5, 10 years ago, you know, I've had pretty solid advice from people that I trust a lot, just to not talk about this in the workplace. And, I've debated it. I've debated that option. For me, and look, and I've said this 1,000 times, it's going to be your biggest excuse or your biggest power. It's your biggest strength. You know, Authenticity is irreplaceable. And if people want to buy into me as a professional person, they're going to do it because of my energy, my view on life, my ambitious nature. I want to do well for other people because that will help me get to where I want to get to. I'm not going to be able to do that without being honest about why why I am.
Yeah.
And I'd be lying if I said I wasn't shitting myself about this being out in the public, and people are going to have opinions and being able to pick up on stuff that I say. So what? Do you know what I mean? I think there's going to be a lot to be said about those people who will find fault in this. Look where I am in 5 years and look where they are. I'm sure it'll be a very different place.
Agreed, man. Completely agreed. I wanted to probably just touch on kind of like one last question before we wrap up. You've obviously spoken a lot about therapy and
Yeah.
how instrumental it's been in your recovery and dealing with stuff. I suppose even outside of recovering from the accident, how just big has been therapy and journaling and all of those other little bits, and how can other people take that and work on themselves, I suppose?
Yeah. So I think I've mentioned this to you. I was so anti-therapy before all of this. I thought it was the biggest load of bollocks ever. I thought going there, sitting and talking about what's wrong would just be like, I thought I'd be asleep. And I did my first 3 sessions with Jill. And she said to me, look, I said, I'm not sure if this is right, if it's going to help. I'm really not that engaged, very guarded in these sessions, very much thought, just going to get on with it. She said to me, in 3 weeks, you're going to come back to me and say, this has gone wrong, this has gone wrong, and this has gone wrong. And I thought, thank you very much. I think I'll be all right. I can look after it. Anyway, I went back into work, was doing little things were happening, really angry at myself. And 3rd week, Jill, you're right. And she said, I've already got you a session blocked out next week. And I think from a therapy point of view, the biggest thing it's done for me is just really focus all of my goals and problems and breaking down these huge questions and day-to-day struggles that I'm having and break them down into really small bite-sized pieces that I can just deal with, take little bits of information from each one, and just having someone to vent about that isn't family, has no opinion, is always, on your side, will just give you an opinion. She'll tell me when I'm being a dick or if I'm not thinking correctly and stuff. And she's so helpful for me in just giving me, reminding me of my own value and what I can offer, and my own view on myself and my perception on problems and everything like that. From a journaling point of view, the most important thing I've ever done in my life. In terms of my own self-development, it's when I started journaling, I was in a really tough place with getting to grips with being back in work full time. You've got really high targets you've got to hit. Through no fault of my employer, I was worried I was going to lose my job because it's a sales role. You got to get billing, and I was, comparing myself to people that have been doing what I've been doing for probably about 8 or 10 years and thinking, why the hell am I not there? I'm very, very impatient as a person, thinking I need to do this. I'm just being an absolute mess and really hard on myself, saying, I've got to be better. I've got to be better. Journaling, I can go back now and look at my first couple of journals to where I am now and think, fucking hell, nice work. It's that constant progression of dips. And look, the first Thursday I wrote it, thought, I'm done here. I just started building out this new market. Things had not been moving very quickly for me. I was really worried about everything. I was never going to get sacked. I was still doing well. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was still invoicing like good months, but I was just like so worried that all this stuff wasn't happening for me. And I just thought, I'm never going to get to where, I'm never going to hit this certain target, which was all, very, very ambitious for someone, like probably a bit too cocky, to be honest with you. And Thursday after, I'd landed like a new exclusive client, 4 new mandates to go and work on. Spoke to all these candidates, got different referrals from different meetings that I'd done. I just thought, like, life's amazing. And recruitment is a bit like that. Anyone who tells you that it's a land of milk and honey is either stupid or a fucking liar. It's just one of those jobs where in order to be successful, you have to be very mentally prepared that it's going to be really shit for a significant period of time in a year. The dream, best people that I've spoke to and worked with, like really consistent out, like pipelines, know their candidate pools really well, really care. I think recruitment is becoming very transactional at the moment. I think with how saturated the market is naturally, there's value in relationships. They've got outstanding networks and relationships. It's what kind of drew me to the role, really. And just having that ability to reflect on how I've developed those things in even a week, 2 weeks, a month, relationships that I have now within the network, within my network. And, it's just a crazy, crazy thing for me to look at. And I can look back at that and genuinely be proud of myself from going from the lads who had it all, or not had it all, but had a good thing going, lost it all, and has built it back up to where I was before in, what are we now? I've been back. Yeah. So I've been back officially on the phone since September. And it's a short period of time, mate. Really short period of time. And I've just gone hell for leather at it. And it's been a really, really stressful journey. But so grateful for it. So grateful.
Charlie, my final question on every podcast I do is, what is your dream now?
My dream? My dream now is, so is this limited to one dream? Or is this like...
You can give me as many dreams as you want.
So for a start, minimum level of insurance for grassroots rugby players be well higher than what it is now. I'm doing an interesting piece of research for my own back. I want to make some changes on the average grassroots rugby club in the UK is spending more on its dry cleaning than it is on player insurance. Minimum player insurance I was not covered under. I was entitled to nothing for a head injury. I think if you get paralysed, I think it's 250 grand. That's all you're entitled to. That is fucking ridiculous.
That's like,
right?
really, it's not that much.
No, it's nothing. And it's driving people away from the game. And I think, they can pretend all they want that rugby isn't a violent game or make it safer. You can't. It's a violent game. That's why people want to play it. It's a tough game. Insure players. Make sure the minimum level of insurance to become an RFU accredited club is significantly higher. I know for a fact I'd rather done my own washing than known I would have been covered properly under that sport. My second one would be that we're all just a little bit kinder to each other. When I see someone at the train station, one of the platform guards getting screamed at because the train's 5 minutes late again, it's like, it's not a bad day. And my third one is that people just spent a little bit more time looking up. Take the time to look up when you go out. You'll know so much more about the world. It's so much more interesting. Best piece of advice I've been given. And lastly, family. Lucky enough to have a family that I can support financially, not ever have to worry about financial freedom. Family. Money doesn't buy happiness, but it buys choices. Become respected within my industry. That's it.
Dude, it's so nice to hear you've actually got so many dreams. Like, that's one of my favourite questions.
I'm such a dreamer, mate. I'm such a dreamer.
Charlie, what was the foundation that supported you? I think it's really important just give them a shout out. And are they non-profit charity? Are they a charity? Like how?
Yeah, charity.
Can people support them in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I collectively with people doing stuff for me when I was ill, we've raised I think £4,500 for the Matt Hampson Foundation, set up by Matt Hampson, who had a spinal cord injury. It is a charity who supports young people who have had life-changing industries through sport. Don't know already, just go and have a look at some of the work they're doing. The people that are there are the most inspiring people in the world. Everything, a lot of my energy now stems from just being around the team there that supported me and the people who are the beneficiaries there. Just absolutely amazing people. And so thankful for Matt for setting that foundation up.
We will link them below. And if you're listening to this, watching this, however you are taking us in, if you would like to donate, then that would obviously be incredible. Charlie, thank you so much for doing this, for being brave enough to reach out, and for being so just open and honest and vulnerable. Because I can't imagine how hard that this whole thing has been for you. But your outlook and the way you look at life now, I know is going to hopefully inspire just so many people, and just to try and make their days just a little bit more positive and hopefully a bit more appreciative of what people have got. Thank you. And if you are still watching, please make sure you just give this a big share out, because I think Charlie's story is so important. And make sure you give it a like and all of that other fun, good stuff. And we will see you on the next one.